Yes, dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Innovation Campus. And now we are continuing with our panel discussion on sustainable tourism, collective change to new growth. You can see my panelists. I'm passing the floor to Florian. Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the panel discussion, Future Sustainable Tourism, Collective Change Towards New Growth. This is the last panel discussion, but we could also say the future is coming in the end, or so. Welcome to my guests. I'm also working for Österreich Tour Werbung, and I will be the moderator here of this panel discussion. Here on my right side, Mrs. Komrek-Höhle. She studied in Innsbruck in 2009. She concluded with a degree. Did her final thesis. She worked in the family-run enterprise. Then she worked in the industry and came back to the hotel industry after some years. And then she is now member and co-owner of the Shani Hotel that she represents internally and externally, and she is dedicating herself to sustainable developments in the hotel industry. Irene Schillinger, she's founder and CEO of the vegan group Sün Kitchen. They have 11 restaurants around Austria and also Germany and Switzerland. And she studied political sciences, but she says that she was always passionate about the gastronomy, and she's also environmental protectionist, and she is also dealing with the topic of vegetables, so of vegan and vegetarian food. So Christian Schützinger, here on my left-hand side, he studied also political sciences and did a course in marketing, a MA in marketing and international marketing and communication. He was tourism director in Salzburg, in Abtenau, and he was co-founder of Lammertal. He was also responsible of the Tourism Association in Vorarlberg, and for almost 20 years he now is director of the Tourism GmbH in Vorarlberg, and since 2020 also the responsible person of the Tourism Association of the federal state. Then Andreas Jaritz on my right-hand side, the CEO and co-founder of EMMA. He's software engineer and media and communication expert. Is successful in film, is a successful filmmaker and developer of documentations. He was also co-founder in the co-working spaces in Austria, and has a lot of exciting projects to tell us about. Thanks a lot for being here. And now I would like to suggest to start the discussion. In order not to lose time, in February 2020, I remember that I had to do a lot of press interviews, and we had a lot of discussions on tourism, on what to do in tourism and the future of tourism. And it was clear to me already then that tourism is facing sustainable changes, and we knew already then that it would change, tourism would change, and the whole world will change. All other branches, banks, other branches that have also to face issues need to change. And in the last 2 years, in order to, before we enter discussion, I would like to talk about what we did. We intensively exchanged with experts, international, national experts on the different drivers of change. So the first is the digitization. In the last 2 years, digitization was pushed, and everything is faster now, but also innovation is also the prerequisite for ecological solutions, of course. So the second driver is the green transition. I don't think I have to go into detail on the Green Deal of Europe, of the European countries, and also how it affects Austria, but it is a deep change in the production patterns. And we feel this green transition not only on the level of the enterprises, but also when it is about construction ecology, about food, the production, mobility, traveling, mobility on site. But we feel it also, of course, when we talk about ecological footprint in tourism. Then the cultural transition is the third driver. There are two things that we feel that the culture of hospitality is changing here, because young people want to be from king and not servant. And we feel also a change in the future of traveling and the wishes and desires of our guests. Resonance tourism is a key word here, and getting into touch with the guest. And the next driver is the most difficult driver of a change, systemic change. So policies, economy, and civil society have to enter into contact. So it is about networking, and tourism, and space planning. For example, our keywords here. This is the introduction to, before we now start the discussion. Dear Christian Schützinger, I would like to start with you. First question to you. If we look at these drivers and sustainable tourism, you are the boss of a successful company in tourism. How, according to you, would such a sustainable system look like in tourism, and how does the system need to act or react, and how can you make this possible and implement it within tourism? Thanks a lot for inviting me. And if we look at the curriculum, one of the traditional, more traditional ones here, and we're talking about the system here, and that is a good hint, I would say. So we're working on a tourism strategy for our federal state right now, and we try to discuss it with different stakeholders quite well and accurately, and so we try to develop it together with them. And then there is a key thing that came up here in this paper, the vision to create spaces and rooms for a good life, and this is a key aspect. And this might sound surprising for a tourism-driven discussion, but I think we have to ask ourselves which contribution do we give to the world as tourism branch. So I would talk about, first of all, about our own attitude. How do we approach things? Which mindset do we have? How do we approach these changes that we have to face? And how do we try to solve the problems? And then I would say that tourism has not a purpose on its own. So I'm talking as a representative of a tourism system, and maybe for me it's easier than for a company saying this, a company that has also to take care of the financial part. But I would say that the tourism branch, especially in the different regions that are characterized by rural features, or in our case, the alpine environment, so that there the economy can give a good contribution in order to develop these rural areas further and to make it possible for them to develop further. So tourism is not a purpose in itself, and that means that we contribute to a larger development, something larger, and this is something we have to deal with if we look at it from a holistic perspective. You talked about the destination. Your organization is part of a system, you said. Then I would like to address you now, Juliette. You're part of the system, but on the level of an enterprise. The Hotel Shani is a role model. It's seen as a role model in many things, in many cases. So how would you answer the question of sustainable tourism in the proceeding and developing digital transformation, or should we go back to our old values, traditional values? The answer is in the new generation, in the young generation, in the game changers. So the future generation of the young people at 15 years of age now, for example, who grow up with technology, the technological experts, so to say. So because they grow up with this and they expect digitization in all different areas, and they are also in traveling as well. So they would prefer to do everything with their smartphone in the future, and whatever will not work with the smartphone will not be booked then in the future by them. So whether it is the choice of destination, the final booking process, or check-in, check-out, whatever, the entire process should be made available via the smartphone without, or getting all the information via the smartphone should be possible for them then, should be made possible and should be made available to them. For example, by using a chatbot, for example. So the generation of tomorrow, the young people don't want to deal with long bureaucracy, with tiring bureaucracy. They want to do everything quickly, and they want to have all this information available. And we in our institution, we are dealing with this topic. We're doing research on this, and these traveling processes have been connected digitally by us and summarized in an application in the Shani app. And resonance, the reactions, the feedback is really good. Before only 40% used it, and now we have already 70% of our guests using this app. But what is important to us as well, for those guests who don't want to use all this, we need to be also available at the reception and give them the information in the traditional way, as we always did. So in the second question you asked me if we should go back to the old traditional values instead of focusing on digitization and digital transformation. I think that they are going hand in hand. There are things because now in a time where we had so many or have many crises, and the young generation growing up in the middle of all these crises, the pandemic, now the war, the crisis in the Ukraine, but also the other generations are looking for more stability. They would wish more stability in their life. And this is increasing also their awareness for the environment, for an environmentally friendly place, and the wish to join forces in a community. And we should think about what can we do for this? How can we make our companies more sustainable? And what can we do for our guests and our employees in order to create this community? The social corporate responsibility must be taken over by us, and in order to integrate these values. And the second thing, the social aspect, the community, is something that is in the foreground now. The locals must also be integrated in our lobbies, and the communication between employees, guests, and the neighborhood is important, and this is well accepted on all different levels. Andreas, I would like to ask the same question to you. You're a software engineer and inside of Silicon Valley, and you know a lot about the digital transformation. So how do you see things in this regard? I studied media and communication, media sciences and communication. So abroad, also in Latin America, I got to know different ways of traveling. Interrail, for example, I did it when I was young, and I learned a lot about different ways of traveling. And the company I founded, and through this company, I got another perspective of things. As you said, young people like to have their smartphone in their pocket and like to book everything via smartphone. I'm doing this as well now, but we come from a different perspective. We see digitization now as a process that was speeded up and used by people who have different knowledge, and now are no longer sitting in an office, have the possibility now, after 2 years, maybe now, to successfully learn that they can work from everywhere. At least they can work from their own house, from home, and their digital work can also be carried along everywhere around the world. And this is a new perspective, and this is creating an opportunity to develop new concepts based on this that can have a positive impact on regions, on municipalities. And so that we have people that come with their knowledge, not only as tourists, and you're the host and he's the tourist, but different interactions arise. We have we're doing exchange with different companies, and these companies say that they are giving their employees the chance to work from everywhere, and they're giving them a certain number of days where they can work from everywhere around the world. And then they have the chance also to combine their stay with a vacation, for example. And suddenly these people can work from a different location, from a different place around the world, and if they have a good internet connection, this will then only be the only condition. And people who work in the area of IT, digitization, and not the traditional jobs in gastronomy or the hotel industry. And then there will be also the possibility that some are coming back and into a urban place, to an urban area, and also integrate their economic impulses and give the region their economic knowledge. So this is changing the relationship between host and guest, where we combine knowledge transfer and business with the private and the personal thing, and this can be sustainable. On the other side, people who come to a place to enjoy nature, they normally need less infrastructure because they are happy with the things that are offered in the nature, and they don't need to have more, or they don't need more entertainment. So this is creating an additional value and new possibilities. This is a very exciting aspect that you introduced now. Now we are from digitization in regional development. And Irene, before I talk to you, I would like to ask you once again, Christian, you are responsible for the federal state of Vorarlberg, and how do you see this focus on digitization, on networking, or are there other aspects that we have to consider? Yes, these examples that we already mentioned, we can improve procedures, processes, and this digitization offers us new possibilities to offer something new, new movements, to move from one place to the other, as you said, but also the exchange. So develop further, learn from each other, make experiences, draw conclusions. Here, digital tools play an important role as well. And therefore, I think we need all, but we also, on the other hand, need the analog components, because we as social beings, we feel well and inspired, and we become more creative if we also have the contact to other social beings. So, and to bring this together, to bring them into a balance, to have a balance between these is something positive, something nice to my mind. Because some meetings where sometimes might not have been that productive, but there you have also the emotional part. So you will have noticed that there was some emotional aspect. And in the online meetings or digital meetings, maybe we noticed that this emotional part is missing. And now maybe we can concentrate more on that if meeting and doing networking together. But we can. And we will now be more aware of that, maybe. But those people who do workation, they will also need an environment there. They are also getting in touch with others. So these encounters are important. These are going beyond tourism. So if we have a high degree of digitization, and then we're again back in digital check-in, the reception will change in the suburban and also in the regional area. We can notice these encounters will change because due to the cost, we have to digitalize many of these tasks, because who wants to sit at the reception at 2 o'clock in the night? So, but then on the other side, we want to put these encounters and the social aspect in the foreground. And this is the potential there. So we can create new models of community management, to having managers who bring together these communities, who have ideas how to bring communities together, for example, community cooking or something like this. And we need also the training of these managers in community management. I was talking about the younger generation before, and the travelers and people of the younger generation, but it affects also people in our companies. And 80% there in the hotel industry and hospitality industry wish for digital tools to support them in their job. And this is also an important aspect for hotel and hospitality industry, because they suffered a lot from the pandemic, and they had to fight and struggle due to the lack of employees, and this could be the key. And in order to make these jobs more attractive again for younger employees and for employees on the whole. And so this is the key towards more or higher productivity and higher satisfaction in employees. Thanks a lot. Here we're talking about workforce, regional development in this respect. So now, Irene, I would like to ask you, if we're talking about tourism and digitization, one term is always coming up again and again. Every second sentence contains this word, sustainability. Yes, you know that. And I would like to ask you a provocative question. Who benefits from sustainability? Will it be the guests? Will it be the employees, the companies, the local people? Thanks a lot for the invitation. I would say actually everyone benefits from sustainability, but that's not the whole truth, because sustainability is a very vast and broad concept and term, and we have to make it understandable in our companies. So in order to explain them, what do I do in terms of sustainability? Who benefits from sustainability? First of all, the companies who did their homework, who are sustainable, who can communicate clearly what they are doing in order to save resources and to be more sustainable. But I would like to see it in a broader way, because sustainability means also the way you manage your employees and the way you handle them, because they are a very rare and a precious, valuable good, and you have to treat them with respect and with care. You need to offer them good working conditions, good workplaces, where they have the possibility to be creative, productive, where they feel satisfied. So this goes beyond what we said. So we must prepare the workplaces that make it possible for employees to be productive and at the same time happy and satisfied. But sustainability has also the other effect on the employee market, because employees don't want to only to earn money and have leisure time, but they want to have a job that is reasonable, that makes sense. And so the more reasonable the job is, which you can offer, the better or easier it will be for you to get a good employee for this job position, and compared to those who can't offer that. And I looked a bit annoyed when you said, yes, sustainability is always used and used again and again. Yes, of course, it is used everywhere. And the reports on sustainability that are long, pages long, they don't have anything doing with sustainability at all sometimes. And therefore, to me, it is important to explain it well, that we have to concentrate on a resource-oriented and a resource-saving management of our of what we have at hand. And not all the companies do that, and those who are not sustainable have to orientate themselves differently. We are in a changing world, and this is resulting in a structural change, and in the end there will not only be winners. The winners will be the area of agriculture. Not the entire agriculture will be a winner, because there are those who work sustainably and some work less sustainably. And then those who who keep animals, of course, they are in this situation where more and more people are vegetarians. Will no longer be a sustainable area and industry. So very interesting to hear from all of you with different backgrounds, because there are so many topics that also affect tourism. So we also left tourism already. You said agriculture, regional development, all this plays a role in our discussion. And we talked before the panel discussion. Andreas, do you agree with what Irene said? Who benefits from sustainability? The answer Irene gave me. Do you agree? Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree with Irene. It is absolutely right. We have to go deeper and dive deeper, and then we have, in terms of sustainability, we have to care about the stakeholders and do stakeholder management. So we have to consider all parts and elements. And I think here we are seeing a shift or a change, and this is exactly what you said. And as we also have to do with infrastructure, we are developing campuses for remote work. And so our goal, or our primary goal, is that we don't want to we want to leave many spaces still free and think of what we really need to build. This doesn't mean that we want to put people in small offices and rooms, but we want to rethink our spaces. How can we use the spaces we have at our disposal? How can we use them better? And what is really important, and the most important element, is the responsible management of the use of resources, whether human beings, whether we're talking about human beings, construction materials, animals, no matter what, this has the highest impact on sustainability, reducing it and not compensating it by other technologies and then building again stronger, bigger cars or vehicles or machines. Yes, I fully agree in every aspect, but I would reduce it a bit. I would question it a bit, because that would mean we all need to renounce things, and I don't think that this is the way that we can motivate people, because I think we have to shift, to communicate this shift, that we can do it differently, but and do other activities that are also enjoyable. The same way you can also eat good food and enjoy food, even though it is sustainable. It's as enjoyable as your old way of living. So, and the economy will benefit. So this is a win-win situation, which we would create then. The soya cultivation. This is something that is this is something disputed, and because we're using it to feed animals, and is destroying a lot of land. But in Austria, it's still a crop that we use a lot for the farmers, and is giving the soil a lot of good things back. So it's a thing that is positive in Austria still, and for the farmers it is giving them also a good new crop in the next year, if they then choose a different plant. So, Andreas, regarding sustainability, we also always hear greenwashing as a keyword. Could we briefly define where the limit is, if we're talking about the balance in sustainability, between sustainability and greenwashing? So, I think this is no position. So Irina, I understand you, but we reduce anyway. So if I eat less meat, for 1 kilogram of meat, if I then replace it by soya, or I do not have to renounce the enjoyment or the good food, but it is just the replacement. And in the construction area, we try to think of how to use less space by at the same time offering comfortable space for our guests. On the topic of greenwashing, where do we start? In my studies, corporate social responsibility was discussed a lot, and one of my colleagues was a very committed guy, and he said he doesn't want to hear about CSR anymore, because he said all this is just only about greenwashing. So this is one side. But if we handle or manage it in a sustainable way and put sustainability in the foreground, and if you only do this because you want to hide behind it, and then do it, waste resources in another area and do it only as an excuse to show others you are good, then it's greenwashing. But if we do something and based on a good concept, which however lasts years, then I don't think someone can accuse you of greenwashing. So sustainability is a continuous process. I can never say this is our corporate social responsibility report and now we did it, so this is over for the next 3 years. No, the resource saving concepts are continuous processes. It is not only about renouncing things, but reducing it or doing it differently. And in the end of the day, our footprint is too big. Renouncing, yes, maybe it's not the right word, but before asking Christian again, greenwashing, of course, I have to ask you as well, how do you see it and the balance between greenwashing and the honest, authentic efforts in sustainability? During my studies at university, I learned to this concept, do good things before talking about them, and not the other way around. As you mentioned it before, don't talk in all beautiful colors about your company and then do it. Just first do it differently, do it the other way around. First do good things for your company and then present them. So I would really want to warn everyone to do it like that, because guests are well informed nowadays. They know that if it's something honest and authentic, and otherwise you are damaging yourself and your own company. So the communication must work like in a good relationship, in a partnership. You must be honest and communicate on one and the same level and with respect. And then you don't have to justify. If you did your homework well, then you don't need to justify your activities, because you know that you did it well, and you also know how to motivate it.
Ein profanes Thema.
Before we come to the end, I would like to bring up a topic. The prices are growing and the beds need to be filled. And to this, we have to invest in sustainability, which is really good for the tourism branch. And this is the question that I often is often asked to me, and this is why the sustainability is also a competitiveness. And does this help to earn more money and to get better economic, better economy or not? So yes, absolutely, I would underline this. As already mentioned, so sustainability is is really at the top of the course, because not just for the 30-year-olds, but also the younger generation, for the people. I mean, they do care of what, they do care about what they eat, and they do care where they sleep. They do care about sustainability. They do care what the company does to save energy and to save water. And they do care about how the staff members feel, if they're being well treated, and whether people are in the hotel and are free and allowed to live their diversity. All these areas are absolutely important, and more and more gaining an importance also for planning their holidays. And having said this, it would be really good if Austria was to make use of this advantage and increase this advantage. I think Austria has the best possibility for this. Austria has a really good social care and health care, has a lot to offer. Towns, cultural offer, countryside, mountains, and it's in the heart of Europe. You can't have it any better. So, but of course, here we need to do certain things on all levels, and I'm going to start on a business level. Every business needs to think what offer they have, and for their employees, for their guests, as a sustainable offer, social offer. And we can start with a simple access to separating rubbish, or even consider meditation in the middle of nature. So you need to think about creativity. And the next is the regions, and what can these companies do to have a good touristic offer that at the same time is sustainable? For example, in Vienna, now we have some trips that are showing sustainable town development and what is on offer concerning sustainability. Or, for example, also walking in the woods or the high moors that are accessible for tourists. There's everything, all kinds of possibilities, and the next level is within the politics and in the associations, where I also see the Austrian advertisement therein. How can the companies in Austria consider more sustainability, and that the companies have more in this direction, and then also the subsidiaries that there are, for example, if we talk about taxation of sustainable shopping, because sustainability is, of course, expensive, as we all know. And here we need a lot of courage from the companies to make use of it. And there are lots of companies who are in the low-cost segments with very low costs, enter the market with low costs, and companies that would go into the direction of sustainability then don't dare anymore, and then they have a higher rate to go into the market to be able to afford the sustainability, or that we actually have a look at the ecological footprint of the companies and see the companies and support them with a higher punctuation value, or with a sustainable construction to support them there, or with new buildings to have a closer look at that and have a tighter measures, like, for example, with photovoltaic, that this might be necessary. There is so many here. There's so much that can be done to give Austria a competitive advantage. And what I'd also like to say here is that the competition does not sleep. There are countries such as Denmark, which are very right at the front concerning the development of sustainability and the social togetherness that is being supported by the government. Also, if we talk of the cuisine, that's positive, because competitiveness can only be done together, and only together we can master the climate crisis. Thank you, Juliette. Christian. Juliette said that the competition doesn't sleep. So what's the case of Valderberg and sustainability and a competitive advantage for Valderberg? Is it possible? Would it be possible? Can it be considered? Juliette talked about sustainable development and impulses that we can invest into the sustainable development, and there we have the result of good performances, attractive performances that can attract visitors. I would be careful with the title, because you also said do good and talk about it. And we heard about it. First do it and then talk about it. I think that also has to be considered carefully, because then maybe we lose credibility. Some is quite good already in the tourism economy, what's happening here, but maybe it's not so much from this wholeness of this sustainable development, but sometimes from the economic point of view, that we sell it as something compatible. I mean, people aren't stupid, and the topic of sustainable traveling is a modern topic. It plays a role for the decision-making of holidays, but in fact the decision itself is only in small measures. It's influenced. However, now at the moment in the discussion now after the pandemic situation, that we have a result, but we have to think about the next generation and the young people who are now coming up and who want to travel themselves. What Juliette actually said, they have totally different expectations, and we also in our generation now, we have to really consider this and to take this into consideration, because we can't change our concepts every 5 years, because that would not be sustainable at all. So from a cultural point of view, the construction substance, we can't just construct buildings in such a way like this and then rebuild them, because energy just is lost, and we cannot think that way. We have to try right now to think sustainable and think sustainable in a long way, so in the long run, and we have to think of a long-lasting sustainability. But what concerns the tourism is the climate change. That is the bitter side effect of traveling, that mobility is connected to it. And also traveling, the change with mobility, with the CO2 footprint, and where in the tourism area do we have to think very intensely on that. Yes, but this traveling can take place in different ways, and sustainability already now means to think about tomorrow. This helps us as a sustainable company or a sustainable tourism country, Austria, that differentiates us in comparison to other destinies, and this helps us to create connections. If we go beyond the hotels, the beds, the food, and we don't just take the essential, but go beyond it, and we have a good conscience, then it's a great value that more and more people are ready to pay more. We have to just dare going beyond this topic, but it has many chances, because people see this added value and have a good conscience to have done the right thing. And that brings a big feeling of satisfaction that they're going to continue telling everyone and everywhere. Thank you. So I'd like to close now. What we all notice in this discussion, and you notice too, it's a very complex topic. Especially here, we're talking going from one topic to the next, ecological, sustainable, livability and ecological sustainability. Before this panel, I asked to ask a question or to answer a question. This topic is highly complex. How would you explain to a small child what sustainable tourism is and what the future of tourism should look like? I would like to start with you, Andreas, Can you answer this question? The secret of this exercise is to be short and concise so that the small child understands it. I have 2 small children, and it is a topic at home. I try to explain sustainability in such a way that if we sit together, that we have different aspects and we talk about the topic, so it should not hurt anyone around the table. We travel a lot and we go to many countries. And here also I quote Harald Friedel. We heard it so many times. You as person who likes to travel, do you feel good? And children understand this. So they wish, they say, great, how I can live this. And I would like to live this also in 20, 30 years. Juliette, what about you? How would you tell your children? I also have 2 children, and I would explain it to them in such a way that it's important for them, but also for their future children, that there is an intact world, to keep a clean, pure world behind them that should also be livable for their children and still be a beautiful world for their children too. Irina, you also have 2 children, yes. I try to tell my children that everything we do also has an effect, and we should be aware that we take upon ourselves responsibility, and we always have the decision to which variant we decide, and these have consequences on other people. Our decisions have consequences, and that's what my children understand very well in this context. So as an imagery, to look beyond their backyard. Christian, you also have children? I also have 2 children. Oh, the generation. And I would say that tourism helps us in the rural area to have good life quality, to make it possible for the visitors and also for the inhabitants. And I would tell my children, just, do your best. We as people should keep the possibility to be able to travel, because it widens our horizon and brings us further as people. So I would hope that we continue to be conscious and also take on responsibility when we travel, because it's a good for the development for the future, and it helps us. Thank you for this short experiment. And rapidly, just as a conclusion today, we've heard that in the future, tourism is going to be about which values, how to go about it. The topic of our business is going to be, it's not just about the value and also the socio-cultural aspect. I also saw that in future it's also going to be more about living with the government and not from the government. We're talking about regional cycles, not just in the agriculture, but when we talk about tourism, it's part of places that are worthwhile living, regions that are worthwhile living. Great chance for us in Austria to be with such great natural resources and have our loving countryside and country. So thank you so much, my dear guests, have been here today, and to all of you in the whole world, and also the people who are here in the English channel. So goodbye from the Austrian tourism, and goodbye, and we're looking forward to meeting you in Austria. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from the Austrian Tourism Days 2022. I hope we were able to inspire you, to show you a nice perspective for the future, and bring you good ideas for the future. Thank you so much for having been here today, and lots of fun on the last day of the Tourism Days. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Was wird Lehrer für dich?
Qualifiziert für Aufsicht.